saw yesterday Shane Joseph and his sidekick Tony and Lisa and Donald Chambers, all four of them got to see each other, and I was there too. But we're trying to get this observatory thing rolling. I mean, we mean that literally. Well, I mean it both. As it's non-literally, get the. But I mean, they even, when they came, we accomplished 3 things the other day. I got my title to my Jeep switched, even though I still need to get the front license plate holder installed, and so that I have a license up front, license plate. And Donald Chambers had fixed my outlet in here, which then allows power to go to the outlets, all of them in that one dark room over here. And also the closet light, it also allowed it to work. So I fixed that last outlet. And it's, people have to strain to correct me, and it takes a greater wisdom, a more flexible and healthy person. And he probably had a leg or something wanting to go to sleep, and he stayed down there on the floor for a long time. And yet he had some assets and some negative. And in the end, when it worked, he said, "No, don't thank me, or I couldn't have done it without my..." He recommended his guy friend and not God. It was, So, it's ironic when, you don't have to have all the wisdom in the world or the universe or gods to beat your enemy, whoever your enemy is. I mean, your enemy's wiser than you are. And sure, he only gets me to not like Donald Chambers, partly because he said, "Oh, I'm racist." He didn't say, "I am racist," but he said he himself, he was racist, and I don't understand that. If he felt like in the lateness of driving us in that car that he forgot he wasn't alone with Lisa, and he could say whatever he wanted. I mean, he's 73 years old, and he has a son or child or somebody named London, which is fine. There's records, one of them named London. I don't know, she picked up one of Dad's records, and yeah, we have one's named New or something, Brunswick. There's different record names. But you see, we also accomplished a third thing, which was I got Lisa to receive her dinnerware of the pieces of snowman stuff. The snowman, here's the kitchen sink and got stuff. And then fourthly, we started to get ideas for the observatory. But Donald Chambers doesn't understand about what is good for a telescope observatory. He thought we could fix up that old garage. He thought the telescope and its mount could be rolled out like on rails, some kind of rail, and that means that sometimes its polar alignment is gonna be off. It's almost as bad as putting it on a pneumatic scope buggy. And then he said we could put a garage door on that. Well, it's got an additional benefit that I could get some of the things out of here and put it inside that also. It would have a negative that I'd have further to get the electrical out there. That would be expensive depending on how cheap they were predicting like $1,500 just to get it like 20 to 30 feet away from the main entrance in this house. But so it's another like 50 or something feet or more going out to the garage out there. So, but we consider different things, and I acknowledge that the worst light polluter is this one up north here. I don't know if you can see this, you probably can, but up there you can see it. It's the bright light to the north, the light pollution one. I looked up through the northeast window in the home. And you know, every home has its negative, and I'm still a masturbator to porno. You can see the bright light from here further back at my bedroom window. But the pornography stuff, I'd had a little quitting streak. Basically, if I don't have a reason why I ought to be quitting porn, like, I don't mean that I just already, sure, I have a subtle reason if I just delete on the history all this stuff and try to, of course there's blocking things, that's programs, that's a little more determined. Then there's accountability. Well, I haven't really had accountability too much. One person's account, I would have had strict accountability, then had a blocking program, and then the person had the passcode and I couldn't, and that's what some minister man said, that if you give him the passcode, he's never going to give it to you. You'll be stuck in, and that would have been the case. And if you start, the only haunting thing can be like if you suspect that you'll be without your porn unless you can head it off with the pass, you will try to find a way of leaving that blocking program off of one or a few devices, a few smart devices, whatever it takes, so that you can porn off anyway. I heard some people Lisa is she's pretty darn or something. Feels like eating a sandwich on me, and tries to, in my own opinion, cause a self-defeating prophecy like, oh, you're in a safe place and no crime happens to you. Or I said I wanted the observatory in a spot that I could see with, and you can see my reflection in the mirror. It's back here and over here also. But the window in the bedroom over there and this window over here, both I wanted to aim so I could check out the observatory. And Lisa thought she'd be wise and said, well, you need an anti-burglar alarm, and you need a camera so you can see. And so I tried being wise to her that she thought was old-fashioned. And I said, well, what would happen if the camera would be on? And she thought she knew, when is that going to happen? And it isn't very long. So she tried to be wise, but she had a problem where she knew she was right for trusting technology. They all sin some way, and we all did, because look at me, I won an observatory, and what's that gonna do, dude? Is that a real need? And they just know it's not a real need. I mean, I uncovered my dad's paper, his, article of talking speech in a text on an old computer of ours. And so he was a World War II vet and born 1920. And he could speak, and when he went to write, he had these, in his church there was a spokesman's club, and he was trained to give scholarly articles and speeches and stuff. So he had been a typewriterist, a typewriter kind of person. He had typewritten many articles, and the church used him, and he must have not have heard that there's anti-copyright, not anti-copyright, copyright laws and anti-plagiarism laws. Maybe he heard a little bit about that, but he thought, how's it being enforced? Is there something called piracy where we literally, we never held a movie session and charged rental or charged fee to go watch a movie like we had a theater, and we didn't benefit from our having plagiarized, or whatever it's called, copyright violation, some stuff off of the satellite and cable using, whatever it's called, the coaxial cable stuff. Because back in those days, they didn't yet have a really good thing like HDCP for HDMI. Yeah, they didn't have those kinds of things. But they were thinking of getting them that were anti-copyright stuff. But, my dad never would have surmised. I know I've melded on and I've switched the subject throughout this talking quite a lot. But my dad never would have imagined that they have AI and they have, because there has to be, right? Because they have to hire a massive number of people, and the people couldn't be spread out looking for multiple things at different times. And if it was an AI that's checking humans out, like even the stuff to see if they're human, because sometimes some websites, when they get logged on to, it might be an AI bot, and they have to try to pass a checking program like that one where you complete a CAPTCHA, CAPTCHA or something. And people probably find that inconvenient, but it's so a robot doesn't just freely surf the internet and get into places that shouldn't belong to and do things it shouldn't do. But, on a clear night sky, this clear sky clock or whatever it is, thing, it used to be by a guy who died named Attila Danko, but it was taken over by someone else. I don't know if they were related or stranger or whatever, but they found out that there's a lot of foreign country people who have been trying to hack his website because the number of hits trying to enter and using his access had increased a whole lot, and it's too difficult for him to maintain it. And sadly, even though I have got my wish or something of a Paris observatory, it says David apostrophe S Paris Observatory, because there's been none around there. I just got one there. Here's the doors in my light up there. But Attila Danko, but the clear sky clock, they were hackers trying to hack it. So that was a shame, and Attila Danko had died. So there was another guy named Danko who has recently been alive, and he did a plane and pilot-like episode flying a little home-built airplane called a Mini Max. But some days and stuff, I used to have dreams of a 14-inch SCT and Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope, that stands for. And then I was gonna use it for better Jupiter with the great red spot stuff, and Saturn images, and even Mars and Uranus and Neptune. And maybe I could do a thing on Pluto. But you know, it was gonna be neat. And maybe it still would be if I could just have this observatory put there really quickly. It's just that not only and sadly nowhere on this home is it totally perfect. And the real estate that I've recommended to Lisa that I could move back to up in Michigan, it would sort of require some tree trimming before I could see down to the south at an angle, possibly. I don't know what the offsets are on homes, but you know, you probably thought I was done roaming, but Lisa, when she asked me how do I like living here, like an open question, and I told her there's times it's neat and times it isn't neat. I'm just rotting kind of here. It's ironic that some places you could be in a jail, I guess, rotting. But, you know, some people know what I mean because I got angry last night, swore and cursed officer, especially after I hit YouTube and unfortunately saw a woman who acted bad and she had said she had hijacked a whole police station or something. Well, that was a bad parade. And I think I had seen that before, or something of it, and I don't know, it's just a waste of time. It horrifies you because you see recorded down bad behavior on both sides, I guess, but when she doesn't, it's so putty-footing, and the officers are And it goes to show because, I'm just some mental creep who doesn't know how to be nice and stuff. Nice. We shot the guy from Walmart who was trying to steal something and had a gun. Some of the hauntedest things. Some of you very ones can identify with some of it. There's a chance between the two of them that you saw either of those on YouTube. I was gonna call it Walmart, and it belongs to Miley Cyrus. We all know. We are the children. But, I was a little bit hungry for junk food, for $300 something. We got my Illinois title changed for my Jeep. And so I've got the rare license plate on and the sticker on it. In fact, I don't understand that. I thought I read it would be an electronic thing. I don't know. Yeah, I don't. Maybe there's a thing that can be scanned on the license plate. I didn't mean that I didn't think I would have a license plate, but and have one on the front too. But I thought they were thirdly gonna have something electronic that we have to buy or something that goes in the vehicle. But we didn't have to do that, I guess. But for $300 something, we had to pay partly a fine because I'd been here in Illinois. I'm gonna confess, I guess. We had been here for 4 months and 2 weeks, at least I had anyway, while my sister lived in her husband Don, up in northern Indiana. And so, no, Lisa was never married to Dwayne, it was Don. But, in Illinois they only give you a month to get your title fixed up if you're moved in here, and you have 3 months to get your driver's license fixed. Well, it almost was backwards of that for me. Like after 2 months I got my license, and after 4 months and 2 weeks, or almost one day before that, so over 1/3 of a year, I finally got the title. But then I'm on a special needs trust, and also my sister, one reason that she was using, she's hard to get her behind all the way down here and everything, and she was gonna make an arrangement so that, we could meet somewhere up closer to Chicago, but she would have a lot of driving to do then too. And so in reality she lives like 180 miles. 180 miles all the way up in northern Indiana. I'm down here at east central Illinois. Yeah. But, even though I've been back here in Illinois, I haven't yet driven to Charleston or to Marshall or out west to Redmond, or beyond to Arcola. I remember kind of that somewhere around a town of like Oakland or something west of here, there was not only a famous historic building, but my dad had either a grandpa who lived out there or somebody, and at Arcola Cemetery in Illinois, here west of here, by about 20 to 25 miles on 133, there is where Dad's Uncle Walter and Aunt Gracie had been buried. And then we're supposed to be related to the Vitito's, and Dwight Vitito a few years ago died, and he got buried in Edgar Cemetery up north. And then my dad's dad and his mom and his older brother who died in infancy, and his older brother also, that first one was Millard, who died in infancy, and William Robert Williams, who also died, but died by suicide. They're all buried at Edgar Cemetery on the southeast side. Aunt Mildred's buried at the Holt Cemetery, and Dad has been buried up north at Bremen Municipal Cemetery on 4th Road up near the north. And Martha her cremains are up and out there also. But Dwight Vitito knew where Dad's grandpa was buried, and I don't know if he was buried at Edgar Cemetery or not, but there was some talk that sounded like that he was. But there was a Samuel in there somewhere, and of course I get tired and achy from walking, and I have pains in my hips from pacing around and stuff. So who knows how normal that may be. But here's a view of the cemetery. See, I'll switch it around. It has Samuel Williams. I saw his middle initial, said it was H, and Dwight Vitito. Samuel Williams, she thought, was down here at the entrance of the cemetery, but Dwight was up this region. Letter F. Well, anyway, other than that, there's a few other cemeteries that has our local It has our nuclear kind of family in it. I have grandparents on my mom's side who are buried at Green Hills Memorial Cemetery close to Cadiz, Kentucky. That's my grandpa, Lindsay Lawrence Shanklin, and grandma, Olive Oline Nicholson, and some of their children. And then I have at Batman Ridge, spelled Batman Ridge Cemetery, close to Marengo, Indiana, and the other one, Goodman Ridge, Goodman Ridge Cemetery. One of the two has Mary Elizabeth, quote unquote, for Hetty and house, my mom's mom, and also one of the other two cemeteries. The other cemetery has Uncle Roy Dudley Merriweather, who's my mom's almost kind of blood uncle, because mom's real blood aunt Clara Bell Nicholson, the wife of his, was somewhat blood related, probably to a common ancestor. And maybe they were related in some other ways also. But I noticed how that the Meriwether spelled spelled Meriwether, that the Meriwethers, they had been related to the Armstrongs, like both Herbert W. Armstrong and Neil Armstrong. And so too was my dad, according to Jeannie. Now, Jeannie, because my mind doesn't totally perceive, it's kind of smart but a little bit foolish. And that was my own dad's perception of me. But when I went to NIMH in 2008, I met a smart Catholic lady who had earned her bachelor's degree, named Sarah Stoltzner. And Sarah was a scientist, and she studied, her bachelor's was in biology, so she understood some biological stuff. And she thought, you see, sort of incidentally, that us mentally ill, or the world, or somebody, that our brains are, that she said mentally ill people, or any of us, or some of us, or something, can have brains that function similar to artificial intelligence. And she said this in 2008, well before the first Chat GPT. Now maybe they had some half-large language models, but they expanded it by maybe millions, or who knows how many words and stuff. Yeah. And I don't know, but it baffles my mind that people want to ask it, are you sentient? And that, there's quantum AI that Elon Musk has used. And I thought, because his SpaceX, he was selling stock in it. That's what I thought I learned that boosted him from like hundreds of billions of dollars into the $1 trillion mark, like a 1.1 something trillion dollars. And now I've learned, because I thought about this, I thought when he gets up to that highest part and it's become a trillion, because I said he'll never reach it. He's not going. I was wrong. But I was part of the reason why I also predicted later on, and then I was right, that he will descend and he will go below that. Now I didn't think he had 800, 900 billion at the time. I thought that maybe when he did have that, I don't know. I heard more conservatively that he only had 300 to 500 billion, and I thought that was extremely a lot of money. I mean, if it's 300 billion, that's 100 times more than both Donald Trump and Melania and some of them had a piece. So I was upset a little bit last night. I didn't have a good reason to be, but like Lisa had, and Don had also said something like 4 or 5 months isn't enough time to know that you don't like it there. But, I just live here, eat here, collect money, shop sometimes. I tried going to church like once, but I also put on my church shirt once, a different one that I had worn to Seventh-day Adventist, and then I had a real dress shirt on one time, but just drove out on amongst the churches. And that was an earlier thing, but I don't know if I'm gonna like it here. And if who knows if I can convince even the two, Lisa and her guy, that I need to move. I don't know if I need to move down to Rosie Claire, but apparently Aunt Nadine, God bless her heart, even though she was negative, because I said how I moved down here, and she said she can't really be allowed to drive outside of, you can see it's creeping, outside of Hopkinsville limits, and so even if I lived down at Rosie Claire, it'd make it more likely that we could meet more often, because then the distance is only like 60 or 80 miles from Hopkinsville, but it's closer to 180 miles, the distance between Hopkinsville and here, Paris, Illinois, and then it's like another 180 between Paris and all the way up to where Lisa and Don live. But maybe I misremembered or something. It apparently takes closer to 3.5 hour drive time, but they must have gotten started early, like it was 10:30 in the morning Central, which was 11:30, and they got started 3.5 hours earlier. So that meant that they got started driving at 8:30 or something, or 8, I guess. Because they, at 8, and then they got here at 11:30 their time, which was 10. But I didn't know they were going to do that. I'd always suspected they were going to get here at 1 and do the observatory thing first. And I was prepared for that. But at 10:30, I saw an orange. It was sort of looking more red than what I thought. I remembered Don's Maverick, his Ford Maverick vehicle, had pulled up out there to the south. And I thought, wait a minute, this is them. And they let Jazzy, the dog, out. See, you can see an orange light, pollution light there. There's my Jeep, and some of the light either from my bedroom or from, you can see the blue light in here, which is this night light. But then here's the light pollution up to the north. But I don't know what to do, because out there at that bad garage to the south of this lot, which we could fix up, and maybe I could store my scope in there and use it sometimes, but it has to go on the mount, and the mount on a tri-pier, and put the tri-pier on like a scope buggy, and maybe, I could take movies with it. I'd have to always remember to roll the scope and stuff back inside. That's another danger of it. If I forget to roll the roof back over and come back in, the surrounding observatory somewhat protects it still, because it never left the confines. If it's a regular observatory roll-off roof of it, sure, it also matters that I get the roof back over if it's gonna rain or snow or something. Yeah. But, Don's idea was half whacked. And then we were out there, and there were bugs and horrible things. There's like stuff that makes you itch and stuff out there, because there's a whole weed problem out there. Weeds. And I needed to get more weed killer. But, so God bless everybody. It's neat to be nice. It's neat to pray for people incarcerated, people in jails and prisons and mental hospitals. But in the end, when you're free and you're praying, then is it totally what God wants? He probably wants that just as much as, not you, but that he could want. But he wants it as much as you do, and then some. But he also knows if you're mentally ill that it bothers you if it does to pray for these people. I'm better than that. And that's what Daddy was trying to break and humble my heart a little bit. You know how some people say if you get smashed, there's this one doctorate guy, maybe he was overthinking a problem, but he said, when I take an orange and I smash it in his hand, squeeze as hard as he can, you get orange juice, right? You don't get apple juice or other juices. And he says it's like that with this. What if you take an angry person and smash them? Of course, we're talking about getting fruit from somebody. And in the Bible, they talk about the fruits of the works and different things. And God is looking for a harvest. And some people are trying wrongly to mock God a little bit, to say, what does he need a harvest for? He's self-sufficient, able to live forever, and all kinds of stuff. Well, also, you find you got to honor God. Even the fools need to honor God, because even the unholy, evil, spiritual world trembles before God, and they're afraid of it. But also, you know that the point being that from good fruit, God gets a harvest, and we can eat good things, but no one wants to try to eat or consume weeds, which God likens in an analogy that the good produce good fruit and the weeds of the evil people. In the end, there'll be a harvest, and God will keep the fruitful harvest people and uproot them into heaven, and the evil he will tear out of the ground and have them thrown into the lake of fire. And also the devil and demons will be put into the lake of fire. I asked God some difficult questions recently, like, are there any angels in hell right now? I meant real hell. And he goes like, no. You know, I don't know if he was being, apparently it was really God answering me the truth. But then I've been lied to before a lot. And here's the thing, when it could have been God, but he was needing a little bit of help by not allowing you to be around people who would have lied to you before. If he wanted you to think you heard God tell the truth as per your wisdom level. Because if you think God lied, so people in the Bible don't write it pertain to a wise guy yet mentally ill. Simple yet complex is what my dad was labeling, and was born into a cult church that his dad was in there in 1950 and his mom in 71, and they lied to us about a whole lot of stuff. No, I don't know you and I and me. You know, there's this Julie Shue who lives not too far away from here, from Paris, Illinois, maybe, 7 to 9 miles down the Lower Terre Haute Road in Nevins, Illinois, in Edgar County. But she used to belong to the Worldwide Church of God, and I heard that they, as we called it, had split off and joined either what was it called? United or Global Church of God or something, and that maybe Sarah Witt, the Witt family, had joined one of them, maybe United, but both of Sarah Witt's parents are gone and died, and only Michael Shue's mother is still alive, and Harold Henson, this other guy who's not too far away from me up there, a few blocks, about half a mile away or something. His mom is still alive. Harold's mom is named Yolanda, and Michael Shue's mom is named Julie. I know where Yolanda lives, and I haven't gone to see her since I moved here, but the first week or few weeks before I moved here, I saw her then, and I haven't been back. But I'd want to be in a good mood. Last night, I wish I hadn't seen that program, and maybe I was in a sour mood a little bit and rejected going to sleep, and sleeping a little while, kept getting up, now asking God if I should try to get up or not. Earlier, after Lisa and Dawn had left, and I went out and bought some ice cream and potato chips, but I need to eat healthier than that, and I know that, so I have some fruit cups, and I basically don't have any much good vegetables. I have some canned stuff. I have some scalloped potatoes here, a box of Loretta. Here's my potato chips crinkle. I've got Jiffy corn muffin mix, some Great Northern beans, some corn flakes, some Quaker oats, some peanut butter, some lentils over there, some spaghetti. Also, in the refrigerator, I've got 3 chicken patties, and they're great value brand. Some sausage thing of beef, and some old wild blueberries and chocolate ice cream eddies, or dryers. I heard dryers is the name for it when it's out west, and eddies when it's out east. I got some fruit cups, some pineapple and stuff. I got some milk, and I picked up some more Boost drink. Well, I've got to go. I've got an urge to urinate, so I'm sorry for saying that too loud, but I've got to go. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.